Preseason is almost over, and the Celtics are giving us more questions than they are answers. There's some bright spots, some bad spots, and some areas where we're just like, how's this even going to work? We're going to talk about it right here, right now, on the Celtics Chronicle. What's up, Billy? How you doing today, bro?
Hey, everybody. How y'all doing? Back
It's
at it.
been fun, right? Like, watching basketball again has been great. I think the biggest issue for me right now is every team the Celtics have played have been resting dudes, which is fine. It's preseason, but it just makes it really hard to get a gauge on how this team's actually going to do against full strength teams. You look at the way they played against Cleveland the other day, some of their best guys weren't on the floor. It's the same against Toronto. Some of their best guys weren't on the floor. Memphis basically rolled out their second unit plus G League guys. It's really hard to get a read on this team because not only are they playing against weakened opponents, but we haven't even seen what this team's best lineup looks like, or even know what this team's best lineup is. And I think the best way to start this episode is to be like, what's going on with the big man rotation right now? Because if you look at it, Neemy has played the least amount of minutes out of every big in the rotation. Part of that is because he missed game one. Part of that is because he was really, really bad in game two, and then he didn't get many minutes in game three. I feel like Luka Garza is starting to separate himself from Neemy a little bit just because he's a better screener. I think Neemy's screening has been atrocious during the preseason. He can give you the pick and pop threat. He's also seen very good at timing when to relocate into the paint to offer shot protection and shot deterrent. I'm not saying he's a good defender by any stretch of the imagination, but his timing seems to be there. That big man rotation to me is my biggest question. It has been all summer, right? But I think that we both of us were coming into this, and most of us watching this as well, coming into this expecting Neemy to be the starting five, and it just has not gone that way.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the new system or what, but for whatever reason, he just does not fit in. And a lot of times they're going to have like a power forward, like what would be a traditional power forward next to him. And it just doesn't work with Neemy. Like we've seen a lot of Boucher at the four. We've seen a lot of Josh Minott at the four, who's been phenomenal. The other thing that Joe's doing is he is like got a quick trigger. If you miss an offensive rebound, you're immediately getting pulled and sat. And a lot of times it's going to be Neemy that's failing to box out. He's not in the right position. He's not in the right place. So he might go out there and then he'll get immediately pulled. And it's like rotating. It's like musical chairs the way he's pulling these guys. And the one that can stay on the court the longest, surprisingly, has been Garza.
He's the better rebounder out of all of the big man rotation, though. I think that was one of his biggest skill sets coming into the preseason was he's going to do well on the defensive glass. He's not going to be an anchor for you on the glass, but he's going to get you 5, 6, 7 boards a night if he gets the minutes. And that's going to be really important. As you said, Joe's playing this pulling whoever doesn't come up with a defensive board and allows the offensive rebound. Little number here for you. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen this. The Celtics have given up 49 offensive boards in 3 games, which is absolutely atrocious. That cannot happen during the regular season. They'll get mauled. If you come up against teams that play with size, it's going to be really tough just to even stay in the game at that point. I think that one of the ways I wrote about this yesterday for the newsletter, the Celtics Chronicle newsletter. Head over there and sign up, CelticChronicle.com, was the potential to play a big man by committee, at least for the first few months of the season, just to see who separates themselves and who proves themselves to be a starting level big for this team. Because right now, if Neemy's not that guy, which I feel like everybody expected him to be, it's wide open for somebody to step up and claim that. And right, Luka Garza feels like that guy.
It's really surprising because we haven't played against any starting caliber bigs yet. Every team we've played has sat their bigs. There's at least starting bigs. So like there was no Jared Allen, there was no Evan Mobley's. There was none of the bigs in Toronto like that were even worth a lick of salt, and we're getting destroyed by them. Like at the point where like if these rebounding percentages hold up, we will be ranked 30th in the league in rebounding.
And that was no Jaren Jackson Jr. either. Do you know what I mean?
Team.
Like, every team. And I think that 30th in rebounding, when you're trying to be a team that controls the tempo and controls the pace, it's counterintuitive because, and I'm big on this, it's really difficult to control. Now, to push tempo is different to control the tempo. It's very difficult to control the tempo when you can't own your defensive glass, because it makes it far tougher to get out in transition. If you start going to everybody crash the defensive boards, the offense has a chance to get back and set up in the half court. So when you eventually get into your offense, you're coming up against the set defense, which then it doesn't work if you're trying to play 0.5 decision-making basketball. You need to be getting up and down the floor quickly. So that 30, that projection that you made, ending bottom of the league in rebounding, will also have a knock-on effect on the functionality and potential success of being able to play quick, because they kind of go hand in hand. If you look at teams that play fast, they generally have somebody that can control the glass and outlet, and you have guys that leak out. You have somebody that is able to bring the ball up at speed, and then you have a screener that can take that ball handler's defender off them as they're trying to play pressure defense with drag screens and what have you. So I think that the rebounding is incredibly important to the overall success of this team, and that is why the center rotation specifically has been such a point of emphasis for me.
Yeah, and it's what everybody talked about before even preseason started. It's what we knew we would have to focus on. It's been extremely disappointing, I would say, with the exception of a couple bright spots with Garza. And I mean, honestly, are we just going to call it a double big where, I mean, really, Joe's brought back the power forward position in the NBA. Boucher, Josh, you name it. It's not really a double big, even though Boucher can play some five. He played a lot of five at the last game. But it really is usually him next to a Garza, next to a Queta, next to even a Tillman, who Tillman's even beating out Queta at this point, which is that's the upset of the year right there.
I think, and we'll get to Boucher in a minute. I think Tillman's a really interesting topic. I think that what Tillman gives you in terms of perimeter defense, perimeter pressure, switchability, having guys that can switch one through whatever, and you've got multiple defensive points across multiple positions. That's going to be really important to the Celtics' ability to play fast, because one thing that they've done is, while they're trending downwards in defensive rebounding, they're actually becoming a way better team at forcing turnovers. Now, if you look at the last few years, they didn't really play the passing lanes the same way. They allowed teams to get what they wanted because they knew that they could impact the shot and control the defensive glass. So it was just a different approach. This year, it feels like they're hedging harder. They're jumping into passing lanes more. They're trapping. They're just doing anything they can to get to end a possession before a shot's taken. And when you can switch more and you can counter pick and rolls as easily as you can when you've got a guy like Tillman at the 5, and you still have some length because you got Boucher, who can be your weak side rim protector, it actually makes sense why Tillman is getting a look right now, because it gives you that opportunity to play at the pace that you need. And you can go into a 5-out type look as well, which we know Missoula prefers, especially if you're going to be cutting more. You want as much floor spacing on the floor as possible. That's why Garza is also, in my opinion, above Neemy right now, is because we haven't really seen it yet, but he's a pick and pop threat. He can come off. He could literally, you could run him off a flare screen and feel comfortable about it. Do you know what I mean? And I think that that's a big point with the versatility that Tillman brings. He's not going to be as impactful as Neemy in the box score by any stretch of the imagination. But I think in terms of what he brings to the team and the flow of the offense and the potential intensity the defense can play with, I actually understand why he's going to get more looks than, at this point, it's Neemy, but whoever falls to that 4th-string big spot.
Yeah, the forcing the turnovers thing is going to be huge, because obviously rebounding is the priority, especially with the way Joe's pulling guys. Like, he is really trying to get us to at least an average rebounding team, but making up for it with, just forcing turnovers, it lets us still play at the pace that we want, play fast. The pace is up, but it's surprisingly not resulting in fast break points. Our fast break points each game have not been spectacular, but our pace is up. We are playing at a faster pace. So, I mean, it's baby steps, I guess. It'll be a long process, and you really just can't have fast break points without rebounding.
Yeah, and I think that there was a really good quote the other day where it was like, playing fast does not necessarily mean playing in transition. It's the pace of the decision making. It's the pace of the way the ball moves, the way people cut. It's basically, it's the intensity that you bring. If you bring a high intensity, you end up playing at a quicker pace because of it. And it's very easy to misconstrue that as, we're going to sprint, transition, when really what it means is, again, back to that 0.5 decision-making basketball, you have half of a second to decide whether you want to pass, dribble, or shoot, and then you need to execute. And I've spoke about this for a few years, ever since the Ime Udoka season, actually. It's very easy to talk about in principle. It's very difficult to instill that concept, and that's going to take time. Guys like Jalen, Derek, all the older heads that are very accomplished, high-level talents, potential all-stars, they're going to get it a lot quicker than your Ugos and your Minotts and Luka Garza and insert Baylor Scheinman or whoever you want to talk about there. That's going to take time, because not only are you asking them to improve their like visible basketball attributes, but the mental aspect of the game, the processing speed, the understanding when to make that decision and what decision is the right read, and being able to do that at pace, that takes time. So yeah, I do think that transition points need to tick upwards, but I also believe it's not a true indicator of the type of pace that the Celtics are talking about playing with.
Do you think that a lot of that is coming because like we have to play at that faster pace because we don't have the creators that a lot of other teams have? Because like that's the one thing I'm kind of surprised about Simons. He's not as good of a creator as I thought he is, but he's actually awesome on catch and shoot. So if guys can get him open, it's like an automatic bucket. So I'm kind of curious if we're playing at that pace because we really don't have anybody that creates for others. We have guys that create for themselves. Pritchard is a great example of that. Jalen obviously is too. I was surprised to see Simons not really a creator, but more of a, hey man, this guy can spot up. He's a threat. Like, I mean, he's really impressed me the last game, especially.
Yeah. I mean, I think that teams want to play with that speedy decision making all the time anyway. Now, obviously, depending on the personnel you have, you're going to slow it down, you're going to speed it up. There's going to be opportunities to do both, and the flexibility to be that type of team that can play either style is what really tells you when a team is great. Now, when you don't have a primary playmaker that's a legitimate like 6, 7, 8 assistant like guy that also has scoring gravity, that he's creating opportunities without having the ball in his hand, a la Jason Tatum, a la Tyrese Halliburton over in Indiana. And I'll get back to why I've just mentioned Halliburton in a moment. It makes more sense to play at this pace, because if you're making decisions quickly and you're doing what Mazzulla said the other day, you're looking for 2-to-1s and 2-on-1s and reacting on those 2-on-1s. The quicker those decisions, the more the ball moves, the more opportunities arise where you're not asking somebody to make high level reads. It's just find the open man, and that open man is usually one pass away, maybe two, depending on how the defense rotates. It becomes easier to maximize the limited playmaking talent at your disposal rather than asking a guy to create something out of nothing, like we saw Tatum have to do at times last year, when it just became the movement wasn't there and it became very stagnant off half-court offense. And that was very rare, but it did happen. Now, the ideal scenario is you get everybody on your team to buy into this. So everybody becomes like a viable passing threat, because again, it's one pass away or two at the most. And then you insert a high level playmaker into that, and that elevates you to a whole new level. And that ties us back into Halliburton, because the Pacers are doing that. Everyone on the Pacers team is making snap decisions, and every read is one pass, two passes away. It makes life very easy. It makes the basketball move and flow. But once you insert that elite playmaker into the equation, well, now that pass that's two moves away, so two players away, when the defense rotates over and they're playing that passing lane expecting it, you can make a difficult read at pace, and then everything opens up. And then when you do go into a half court, the defense don't know what to do, because they know they can't overhelp anywhere. So I think that the idea is to instill this now, get everybody playing that way. So when Tatum comes back and you insert that high level playmaker back into the rotation, it's kind of like that rising tide lifts all ships, right? He comes in and just elevates everything they're doing, rather than them needing to readjust back around Tatum. That would be my expectation.
That actually sounds correct. And as a bigger picture, with this team, they're going to be so much more reliant on the 3-point line than the previous teams, even though obviously everybody always said we'd live by the 3, die by the 3. But especially with this roster, even as temporary as it may be, because obviously we know we're eventually getting Tatum back. We know this isn't the final, plan to be a contender with these group of guys. But with the way they have, there's no margin for error. Like, we used to be able to have a bad shooting night and still be able to pull out a win by playing another way. This team is going to have to hit 15 to 23s a game every game they win. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts. They just can't make up the talent deficiency.
And the problem is you don't want them being the volume of 3-point shooting team that they have been in previous years, because the shooting talent isn't there. And I'll refer back to Mazzulla again on after what game was it? The Cleveland game, where he was asked about obviously the shot profile based on the speed, and he just genuinely wasn't happy with that question. One thing that I really liked, one thing I really liked what he said though was, in previous years, you could be running a 2-on-1 action and both guys involved in the action are 38% shooters from deep. And it makes sense then that the idea of that action is to create a catch and shoot, an open catch and shoot for a guy that hits nearly 4 out of 10 threes a game, or 4 out of 10 every time they shoot 10 threes. You get what I'm saying? This year, that's not going to be the case. There's very limited number of those guys that are that high level of a perimeter threat. So they are going to look for other ways to generate offense. The hard part is that means the guys that are genuine threats from deep, the Derek White, the Anfernee Simons, the Sam Hauser, their shot diet from the perimeter is going to exponentially grow, because you need that volume just to make sure that the spacing's there. And as you said, then you need that volume to ensure you're hitting in your threes, that the math game at least makes sense to a degree. So I think that not only will we see the Celtics need that 3-point line, but I think that there's going to be very defined guys that you're really looking for on a nightly basis. Whereas we became used to an egalitarian, everybody eats offense because everybody can hit that free. Now it's going to be, right, when we drive and if Jalen's driving and kicking, he wants Simons, he wants Pritchard, he wants White, he wants Hauser. If one of those 4 guys isn't available, he's going to counter, go mid-range, explode at the rim. It's just going to become a little bit more of a diverse offense, but it's definitely going to be in that read and react principle-based. Hey, we're going to run an action, and we hope that action springs free one of these guys, but if it doesn't, this is what we do, and we go to flowchart A or flowchart B. I think that that's what we can expect, and that seems fair to me.
I just see a scenario where that's not a appealing version of basketball to watch, where they're basically playing for how many threes they make, not how many threes they take. They don't care how many they take. It's just about getting to how many they need to make to win. And that's with that faster pace, more possessions, more shots. It's going to be more bricks. I really see a scenario where this team could end up not being a lot of fun to watch, because the jacking up threes criticism we got the last few years, it might actually be true this time. That broken clock might finally be right.
I mean, I've said this so many times that I'm basically, to quote Mazzulla, you should be able to quote me verbatim here. Basketball is first and foremost an entertainment product. And there has to be, and I understand that the point of the game is to win. And I understand that there are people out there that to them, if you win, the game was fun. But for me, and like from a lot of hoop heads, I would hope, there has to be a level of entertainment involved. And that should be part of a team's remit is, yes, we need to win. Yes, we need to do whatever it takes to win. But if it's aesthetically displeasing and fans don't enjoy it, then it's still counterintuitive to the product of us as a franchise, because if people don't want to watch, we don't make money. We don't make money. Things become less sustainable long term. And if you were already getting those complaints from sections of the fan base when this team was elite, when you had multiple all-stars and the roster depth, it was just ridiculous, then imagine how that's going to be now. And I think that there's a world where I'd be completely okay with them taking 30, 40 foot threes a game, as long as we do get they've run good actions, so it's pretty basketball. They attack the rim. For me, it's not so much about the threes that they take, it's about how they create them, right? If you're taking 40 threes, they all come off good action, they all find an open guy, everything that was set up was methodical and it makes sense, and there's no bad shots, I'm cool with that, and I can get through it whether you win or lose. I think that there's a lot we can learn, and we can start looking at who's getting better at penetrating, decision. There's a lot you could take away from every game. If it's just, hey, we're going to sprint the ball, kick it out to the first guy who catches it, boom, we're going to fire a free, get back because we need them possessions, because the more possessions, the more shots that we play that math game, then check me out. I don't see what I could go and play 2K and do that. Do you know what I mean? And I think that that's where my mentality is. I'm not bothered about the shot profile as much as I'm bothered about how you generate the shots within that profile, and whether that is aesthetic and whether that has scalability towards success. Because at the end of the day, the foundations you're putting in now are the foundations you're going to be building. And this goes back to us talking about Joe Mazzulla building a team in his image. These foundations are building towards the next championship team. And if you start, have you ever watched the Mighty Ducks?
Of course.
Okay, so I quote the Mighty Ducks a lot in podcasts, and there's a reason for that, because I love them. But in the first Mighty Ducks, at the beginning, when he first takes over the team and they're still Section 5, he gets them all to start taking dives, right? Do you remember that? And he's like, take the foul, get hurt, get indignant. That was building on bad framework for success, right? And he had to take it back down and start again. And if you go to the math game that we're talking about, where it's just run, get possessions, get shot, get possessions, get shot, get possession, and it's just like that, that's the same as what Gordon Bombay was doing when he's telling everyone to take a dive, because it's bad framework for future success. And I'd much rather lose while building good frameworks than win on bad habits, because it's so much harder to eradicate those bad habits in a year, 18 months time, especially if there's been some success there, because you get into this false sense of security that those habits can lead to bigger success. So anyway, it's a long way of saying the creation of the shot is better than the actual amount of shots they take.
Yeah, and that's where my worry is, because we won't have a 5-out offense. Like, that's just dead. We just don't have enough guys to have it. We don't have that many shooters. So I'm worried what it's going to be like. This is concern trolling at this point. I understand that. I hope I'm wrong. But, like, I don't want most of our threes generated by a guy dribbling 8-9 times and then taking a pull-up three. I want it to be created. Somebody kicking to Sam in the corner wide open. Those are the threes I want. I'm just really concerned that, especially in the half court, how are they going to create these without a creator?
It's going to have to be that decision making. It's going to be make the defense react, kick it, make them react again, find the open guy, hope that open guy is one of your shooters. And if not, then you need to find a way of clearing a driving lane for him. And that's kind of going to be where it is, right? And defenses aren't stupid. They'll know that you're trying to find set guys. The scouting report will say, if Jaylen Brown drives off the left wing, he probably wants a Payton Pritchard catch and shoot on the right slot, because they're going to try and mirror shooters with ball handlers, right? That's the point. You mirror your shooter on the opposite side. That's why when you have multiple guys that can score, it becomes so hard to guard, because now you're not mirroring, you're surrounding, and that's a big difference, obviously. I agree. I think that there is a world where, and I think Anfernee Simons has been guilty of this at times. I felt like they've made first really quick decisions on the first offensive entry, and then the ball's found its way to Simons' hands, and all the air has gone out of that break, right? And it's slowed down because Simons is more comfortable working at that pace, and he's so used to controlling that pace for a team from his years in Toronto that he kind of reverts to it. The possession, and I found that the possessions where he does that, he's actually not very successful. The possessions where he pops off a flare screen while an action's being run and the ball finds him, that's when he has really big impact on the game. So I think there are going to be some stretches where there's ISO heavy, slow paced basketball, and I think that's okay depending on the situation. But for the most part, I do agree. I think that, again, the way you generate is more important than the shot itself.
And that's the worry, because Simons does it. He loves that, like that Dame time where he has the ball and he's going to dribble in front of the guy and get his shot off. But I mean, let's be honest, Pritchard does it too. Pritchard likes to do that in and out dribble 4 or 5 times. He'll do it as many times as it takes to get by his guy. And I'm starting to wonder, are they redundant to have both of them on this roster? It's like, do you move one of them and get the big you need? because I love both of them, especially when Tatum comes back, but I don't think you need both of them, and that's probably the only way you're going to get a big.
Yeah, I think there's probably a bit of redundancy, a little bit of overlap there, and people are going to love Simons because he's got a little bit more pop to him sometimes, I think. But I think Pritchard wins. Like, Simons is on an expiring deal. I think this is really important to put out there. I do not believe re-signing him especially at his current value or near to it, is financially prudent for the Celtics. I think it's a bad choice. Now, for that, you also have Payton Pritchard that has been developed in this system, that has done nothing but improve year on year. That is a piece that I consider to be core of the rotation. He's not one of your core, but he's core to the rotation. If I have to choose between the two, a little bit of team bias here, a little bit of drafted your guy bias, I stick with Pritchard and I move on from Simons. Now, obviously, that means that the trade value, the return is lower because you're trading away a guy that doesn't have much team control, and it might make it more difficult to get your big of the future. And what I will point out is, it's not necessarily that easy to just go and get a big of the future, because a lot depends on how Mazzulla expects this team to play. If he wants them to be eventually back at a 5-out, well, your big of the future looks very different than if you're trying to play fast-paced, we need a rim runner. And knowing what you're building towards is just as important as acquiring the guy, because if you go and pick up and I'm not saying to get this guy, but just an example, if you go and pick up a Clint Capella, but then you want to play 5-out, well, Clint Capella is now redundant because that's not his game. So you need to know where you're trying to get to before chasing the big. But yeah, if I had to, I think I'd get rid of Simons over Pritchard because I just trust Pritchard more.
Yeah, no, like I said, I totally agree. And that Pritchard contract is probably one of the 3 or 4 best contracts in the entire NBA. But then again, that goes back to the other argument where you're actually going to get something good for Pritchard, where Simons is expiring. You're not going to get pretty much anything of value back if you're,
The concern really there is, though, so there's a world where you could trade Pritchard, Simon walks, and now you've gone from having 2 of them to none of them. And none of them is a worse scenario than 2 of them. You can always pick a big up in free agency next season towards the trade deadline. Like this, we've said this at the start of the summer, like this isn't going to be a we'll be ready by February type of retool. This is going to be we'll be ready when we're ready. Do you know what I mean? And I just think that trading Pritchard now for a big that you don't even know is the type of big that you're going to need yet, and then potentially losing Simons is very short-sighted. It doesn't strike me as a Brad Stevens decision. If he does it, I'll change my tune and be like, yo, trust in Brad. He knows better. But for right now, I'm like, that doesn't feel like a move that Boston would make.
Yeah, I mean, unless it was for a guy that's due for an extension, then we end up having to pay him like a Kessler that Utah doesn't want to pay. But, I mean, there's only so many guys that kind of fit that category. So I am really I'm even out on Kessler just because I don't like trading with Danny Ainge. You got to pay $1.50 for $1 every time. And this team doesn't have enough to pay $1.50 for a guy that's only worth $1.
Not with what they're trying to achieve as well. They're walking a very fine line, and until they're at a point where they feel like they've built some of these guys' trade values up, that's not going to be the case. And I do believe that, a guy like Josh Minott, who's shone over the first 3 games, and to me is and I said this before the start of the preseason as well, he's a guy that could really stand out for Boston this year. Then the question becomes, well, do you keep him, or did you get this guy for pennies and now you're going to sell him for dollars and get somebody back, right? And these are going to be the questions that Brad has to answer. I think that when you take a swing at so many young guys, the hope is a few of them increase their trade value, and then you make the decision on whether they're more valuable to you as a player or more valuable to you as a trade piece. And that's just the business side of the industry. And right now, Minott seems like a guy that if you give him a 4 year and then you put him in trade talks in a year or whatever it may be, you're probably going to get back something healthy. As long as it's that Evan Turner kind of uptick, right? It's going to be the same thing. No, I'm not saying Minott's going to have the same impact. I'm just saying it's the mentality. So yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, if they make a trade for a big, they make a trade for a big. I think I'd like to see what Luka Garza can do. He strikes me as a guy that could be a long-term bench piece. I don't see him as a starter in any sense.
No.
I like the idea of seeing what Josh Minott can do. Baylor Shireman has been forced into a weird role during preseason, being more of a point guard. When really he should be like a secondary creator. That I'm interested to see. Hugo is only going to get better. Like there's a bunch that's like interesting right now. It's really hard to see how these pieces fit into the style that we've seen over the first 3 games in terms of a winning perspective.
Yeah, the only guy I could see like actually playing in a playoff game at this point is Boucher. He just seems such a natural fit. Like I could automatically picture him out there with Tatum and Brown when, you know what I mean? Like I trust him to make an open shot. The other guy, I mean, it's just the ceiling is Minott because he's only 22 and I already want him to be the starting power forward. I love the athleticism. It's something different that we haven't had before. Just having somebody that can play next to a center. And like I said, I mean, Tatum's been our power forward essentially since he was 19 years old. So it is kind of nice. And
he's still 19.
He is still 19, only 19. So I am really curious about how that would play out. I would, like I said, I want to see him start because I think his sky's the limit right now.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the biggest pickup for this team over the summer. Like he's going to end the year as one of those guys you look at and be like, how the hell did they get him so cheaply? You know what I mean? And great, because then if he sticks and he becomes a part of the like a championship rotation for the team in a few years, fantastic. If he doesn't and he becomes somebody that you flip to get a piece that becomes part of a championship rotation, fantastic. In fact, if he does anything where he sticks and then he's valuable, fantastic, because the whole point of this was you churn through dudes until you find the ones that work. Now, if Brad's found 1 or 2 that work already, you're ahead of the process, and then everybody should be happy. And that's what this is. It's a process. So, it's going to be fun. We've got 1 more preseason game to get through. I'm not expecting to learn much. I would like to see a little bit more of a glimpse into how the first game's lineup is going to look, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel realistic. We're going to get a real look at this team until opening night. Hopefully, at least we'll play against NBA players. Like, please just play your starters or like NBA caliber players against us. I just want to see them against NBA competition, and we just have not had that yet.
I mean, I don't think Missoula knows what his starting lineup is going to be yet, to be quite honest with you. I think that this is going to be very much a rotate till we stumble upon something. I would definitely agree, though. I want to see them against some NBA, like full NBA guys, so we can start getting a feel. Because the last thing you want is to come into opening night against the Sixers full of this false confidence and then just get the rug pulled. So, it'll be interesting to see how that flows.
Oh, man. We got 8 more days, 7 more days. We're almost there.
Getting there, man. Getting there. My birthday is before then. That's good. That means the birthday celebration is out the way. Yeah, I'm getting old, man. Right. With that, we're going to leave you. We're going to bid you adieu. We're going to say good night. Bang. Now, if you didn't know what that's from, then you need to catch up on some Kenny Omega. With that, make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, show the Celtics Chronicle some love, and make sure you're going to show Billy some love over on Letterboxd. Billy, what's the handle?
CBO 041. It's Oscar season coming up, guys. We got all the good holiday movies coming up.
Like and subscribe to the show. Peace.
Peace.